Hi, it's TT. Let's paint a Halloween kitty with a jack-o'-lantern. I am going to start by wetting my watercolors and painting that jack-o'-lantern yellow. And then I'm going to add some orange on top of the yellow to try to give that jack-o'-lantern some depth. Then I'm going to grab my Schminke Haze Indigo, which I was excited to get to use, and paint the kitty's tail, his eyes, and his two little front paws that are barely peeking out from underneath the sheet. I'm painting on the pumpkin stem in a nice sepia brown, and then there's the kitty's mouth. Now I am adding some depth onto that sheet. The kitty's wearing a sheet. He's dressed up as a ghost for Halloween. So just using a very light gray to build up some layers to show the wrinkles on that sheet. Now I'm adding some Potter's Pink and Daniel Smith Quinacridone Coral on the little nose, and then lifting some highlights out from the shadows that I already put in. I ended up doing this pumpkin in gouache. So I've painted this kitty 3 times. The first time I painted it in only watercolor, the second time I painted it in only gouache, and this time I'm painting it in watercolor and then going over it in gouache. So I kind of wasn't sure what I was going to do with the jack-o'-lantern this time. So I did paint the whole thing in watercolor and then go back over the whole thing in gouache. But I got a darker orange on there and tried to add some of the lines of the pumpkin, and then I tried to lift out some highlights in that pumpkin stem and added a shadow underneath the kitty and the pumpkin. And here he is in just watercolor. Now I remembered to tape the kitty down. I'm wetting my jelly gouaches, got my Princeton Select brushes because I don't want to use good brushes with gouache, and I'm starting on that jack-o'-lantern. I ended up covering the entire jack-o'-lantern in gouache, so all of the work that I did in watercolor was kind of moot, but that's okay because I think I like it better. After I got done with it, I think I like it better in the gouache. And then I put a brighter yellow in the eyes, nose, and mouth. Then you'll see me kind of fiddle with the shape of the mouth, and I'll go back over that with the orange to fix the shape to make it the way I like it. And then I'll add a lighter yellow on the very inside to make it look like it's glowing. This is my least favorite part. I took this adorable kitty cat tail and I added gouache to it. And now I don't really like the tail as much. I had painted the nose, like the mouth, tail, and feet in Schminke Haze Indigo, and because this is on a cold press paper, it's on 100% cotton Stonehenge cold press paper. It has a texture and it's a very granulating paint, and I didn't really like the texture, so I went over it in gouache, and then I ended up kind of regretting that. I wish that I would have just left it alone and left it in watercolor. It kind of got overworked a little bit, I think. But I'm adding some more highlights and shadows, and then I go back over that the mouth, toes, and tail a lot, and the nose, trying to define the shape to find the shadows and highlights. If you've ever worked in jelly gouache, you'll know that about every 30 minutes you really need to spray all your gouaches down to keep them moist. And then here I am adding some highlights to the pumpkin stem and adding highlights and shadows to the kitty's nose and mouth. Adding even more highlights and shadows to the nose. I really fiddled with it a lot. I couldn't quite get the shape the exact way that I wanted it. Here I am adding some shadows onto the pumpkin. I really like the way that the pumpkin turned out. So I'm just taking and mixed up a darker brownish orange to add those shadows on. Here I am adding some more shadows into the sheet to make it where you can really see those folds of the sheet. adding some highlights to the feet and the nose. And I did put some gouache on the ears and try to kind of lift the ears out. I know you can't really see it very well. There I am adding the whiskers. There he is. So I know that was really fast. I slowed it down so you can see it a little bit better. I'm pulling the washi tape off. It kind of tears the paper a little bit. This paper is, it's the Stonehenge Legion 100% cotton paper, and it just kind of, I find that it's just a little bit fragile. So even though this washi tape was not very sticky, it still kind of tore the paper. Always make sure that when you're pulling your washi tape off, you try to keep it as close as you can to just flat horizontal when you're pulling it backwards. And don't be afraid to go really slow, and you can also use a hairdryer to warm it up a little bit before you pull it, and sometimes that'll save your paper from getting torn. Here he is in watercolor and gouache. I think it turned out pretty cute. I'm going to show you the other two copies that I made. So the first time I painted this kitty, I did it in just watercolor with obviously a little outline, and then the second time I did just gouache. So you can see the differences between those mediums. So this time we did watercolor and gouache together, and I changed the shape of the sheet and where the wrinkles are and everything. So they're all a little bit different. They're all cute in their own different ways. Like my favorite kitty cat tail is the tail on the one that's just watercolor, but I think my favorite pumpkin is the pumpkin that I just painted today that's lit up from the inside. So they're all really cute. Let me know which one you like the best, and if you think I should try this kitty again or what I should change about it the next time I try it.